My sister ruined my wedding, and now, as she struggles to conceive. My sister sabotaged my wedding, turning my dream day into a nightmare. But nothing could prepare me for her twisted, almost unbelievable plan years later when I announced my pregnancy. It all started 3 years ago. I was 27, excited to marry the love of my life. My sister, Pam, then 30, was divorcing her husband, and apparently my happiness was just too much for her to bear. She decided it was inappropriate for me to get married while she was going through a divorce. Inappropriate, as if my life should grind to a halt because hers was falling apart. She didn't just try to persuade our parents, she twisted the knife, spreading vicious lies and rumors. The truth wasn't enough to make people hate me, so Pam invented a whole new reality. My own parents, along with a significant chunk of our family, decided to skip my wedding. Can you imagine? My wedding day, scarred by betrayal before it even began. Fast forward 3 years. My husband and I recently shared some wonderful news on social media. I'm in my 2nd trimester, and we're over the moon. Meanwhile, Pam has been struggling immensely to conceive. Multiple IVF cycles, all heartbreaking failures. She's completely against surrogacy or adoption, convinced she must carry her own child. It's been a painful journey for her, I know. Then, out of the blue, after 3 years of stony silence, my parents reached out. Not to genuinely apologize, not to express remorse for abandoning me on my wedding day. No, they learned about my pregnancy and suddenly they wanted to mend things for Pam. Their idea? That my child should have 2 mothers, me and Pam. They actually pitched this to me, claiming it would be beneficial for me because I'd get more assistance. More assistance? My blood ran cold. It wasn't about help. It was about giving Pam a plaything, a replacement for the child she couldn't have. They just wanted to parade a picture-perfect, happy family facade, with my unborn baby as the prop. I saw right through their phony politeness. The sheer audacity of it left me speechless for a moment, then furious. I told them, unequivocally, that this idea was not only irrational but utterly unacceptable. To even think I would comply, that I would let Pam act as a mother to my child, was beyond ridiculous. I clarified that if they truly wanted to make amends, it should be out of love and genuine regret for their past actions, not because they saw my baby as a solution to Pam's problems. They pushed back, indignant. Pam, they insisted, was prepared to volunteer for her future niece or nephew, and they were simply providing assistance. They accused me of being too harsh, claiming it was perfectly innocent. Innocent, after what they did. I shot back that my husband and in-laws were already providing all the assistance I needed. Because I was the mother. I told them if it was so easy for them to avoid me in the past, they should continue to do so in the future. And then maybe I went too far. The words just spilled out. I suggested that perhaps Pam couldn't conceive because she was a horrible person, and deep down, she wouldn't be a good mother. A silence fell. The line went dead. The texts started flooding in almost immediately, from my parents, from Pam, from other family members. All demanding an apology, calling my words needless and unkind, accusing me of kicking someone when they're down. But here's the thing. Every single detail of what led to my wedding is etched into my memory. My animosity toward Pam runs deep. And honestly, I found it incredibly hard to feel bad about what I said. By the way, if you're still with me on this wild ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More unbelievable family dramas and unexpected twists are coming your way. To truly understand this, we have to go back. When I was planning my wedding, Pam had already been married for 2 years. She and her ex had dated for 3 years before that, and he had always been clear. He wanted a childless life. This was one of the very first things she brought up to our parents when they started talking about their future, a year into dating. I was even in the room, and they just carried on, acting like I wasn't even there. Pam and I, we've never gotten along, not even as kids. She was always our parents' beloved daughter. We fought constantly, eventually settling into a tense truce of ignoring each other. She knew deep down that she wanted children, even as she told our parents her boyfriend preferred a childless existence. She'd hoped, naively, that he would change his mind after they were married. But he didn't. She tried to persuade him, they fought, and she'd show up at family gatherings looking distraught, complaining about how hard it was. In my mind, it was her own fault. She chose to marry a man who made his stance clear, thinking she could change him. She had no right to blame him when she failed. I kept these thoughts to myself, knowing they'd only fuel the fire. Months before my wedding, my parents informed me Pam had moved back home. Her marriage was over after a heated argument. There was no way out of it. At this exact time, my husband and I were already making deposits for our wedding, engaged for months, comfortable in our careers. We were ready, but my parents, in their infinite wisdom, told me they wanted me to postpone my wedding indefinitely. They didn't want me to marry while Pam was divorcing, claiming it would offend her. Pam already had it difficult because she had to postpone her baby plans. I needed to spare her feelings because she truly wanted to become a mother. It was, without a doubt, the most ridiculous, inconsiderate demand they had ever made. I, of course, refused. I told them I wouldn't delay my wedding for Pam. I didn't care what she thought. We were never close. My choice infuriated my parents. They couldn't believe I wouldn't put their beloved daughter's feelings above my own wedding. They threatened not to come. It was devastating, but I told them they could do as they pleased. But Pam wasn't content. She wasn't just going to let me be happy. She decided to ensure no one else came either. Initially, she just used the "it's rude of her to get married while I'm suffering" card. Most felt sympathy, but didn't commit to skipping my wedding. So Pam escalated. The truth wasn't enough drama. She started spreading stories. She claimed I had been trying to persuade her husband to divorce her, that I was envious and couldn't bear the idea of her having a child before me. Absolutely ludicrous. I'd never been friends with her husband. I doubted she would have married him if we'd ever been close. But people believed her. She even claimed I'd bothered him into thinking he'd be happier without her, manipulating him into leaving, and that I was to blame for his childless desire, convincing him it was the way to go for our generation. All lies. Fabricated. But she told them with such conviction, people bought it. My wedding invitations were declined en masse. A few supportive cousins told me what Pam was saying, so I wasn't shocked. My side of the family's attendance was dreadfully poor. I was furious, but what could I do? It would be my word against hers. Fortunately, my husband, our friends, and my in-laws created such a joyful atmosphere on the day itself that I barely noticed who wasn't there. But just because I had a good time doesn't mean I forgave Pam. Her actions were vengeful, malicious. She made sure I wasn't happy, simply because she didn't get her way. She'd always been like that, but most people grow out of it. She clearly hadn't. I cut her and my parents off completely after that, and my animosity only deepened. About a year later, my husband and I were out for lunch when we spotted Pam's ex-husband. It was a bit awkward, but he came over, congratulated us, and apologized for missing our wedding, citing my sister's predicament. We were polite. My husband even made a joke about how he might as well have come since Pam didn't show up either. That's when Pam's ex looked genuinely perplexed. We started discussing the events leading up to the wedding. He revealed how Pam had repeatedly postponed their mediation sessions and delayed the divorce, claiming she was too preoccupied getting ready for my wedding. When he learned she hadn't even attended my wedding, he was utterly baffled. Her sudden interest in my wedding had surprised him, but he'd refrained from confronting her, not wanting to accuse her of procrastinating out of fear. He'd just tried to deal with everything calmly. Then he dropped the bombshell. After hearing our side, Pam skipping my wedding, spreading vicious lies, accusing me of trying to end her marriage, he was shocked. And then he told us the real reason for their split. It wasn't just a dispute over having kids. It was far, far deeper. After months of arguments, he had actually started to consider her point of view. He was on the verge of changing his mind about having children. The day he finally decided to talk to her about it, she was ecstatic when he told her he was prepared to think about being a parent. And then, in what she believed to be a jest, she said he would have had to accept it sooner rather than later, even if he hadn't been prepared. She admitted she had been secretly stopping her birth control pills without telling him. She was planning to trick him into pregnancy, so he'd be forced to accept it. He was unable to accept this perverse scheme, this blatant deception. She had led us all to believe their disagreements were solely about children, but in reality, their final fight was about her monstrous betrayal. My husband and I suddenly understood everything. Pam's erratic, venomous behavior around the time of my wedding clicked into place. She knew she was to blame for her own divorce. She had ruined everything for herself, and then, like a child, she took her frustration out on me. I became even more resentful of her. I could have told my parents and the rest of the family the truth right then, but I decided against it. I had already cut ties with those who hadn't shown up for me. I just wanted to move on. I chose silence, but I still felt no remorse for what I'd said. I genuinely believe it's a blessing she hasn't been able to have children. Someone with her personality, her manipulative tendencies, she wouldn't be a good mother. The fact that Pam and my parents only reached out because I'm pregnant, wanting to play happy family with my unborn child, still infuriates me. That simply will not happen. And this two-mothers idea? My husband and in-laws agree it's not necessary. The only reason I even wavered slightly was the reaction of a few supportive family members who, though they didn't expect an apology, thought my infertility comment was a little harsh. But I still harbor that deep fear. If I ever let Pam have contact with my child, she'll start projecting, trying to act like a mother figure. I can't allow that. It's not just the two mothers' remark, but they explicitly highlighted that this baby would be linked to her by blood. It felt disturbing, almost like a baby stealer vibe. Pam hasn't remarried, isn't seeing anyone. Her sole goal is to have children. She refuses adoption or surrogacy, believing a child isn't truly yours unless you've given birth. She's been trying for over 3 years, even with donors after her divorce. Nothing has worked. Most people would explore other options, but that's her decision. But the timing of their reconciliation attempt? Only after my pregnancy announcement. That's the oddest part. Many have asked why I didn't defend myself earlier, or expose the truth about her divorce. Honestly, it didn't feel worth it. The wedding showed me who my true friends and supporters were. Everything that happened deeply wounded me, but I just wanted to be left alone. Even my supportive family members who thought my comment was harsh still understood my anger. They didn't ask for an apology because they saw how much Pam had hurt me. So, I decided to continue ignoring Pam and my parents. I refused to apologize. They, predictably, did not like this. They played the victim on social media, disparaging me to anyone who would listen again. But I already don't talk to those people, so what could they possibly do? Isolate me further? I think not. I did, however, address the issue with the family members who supported me but disagreed with my comment. I admitted I'd said those things in the heat of the moment, out of immense pain. But I emphasized Pam's deliberate attempt to ruin my wedding was far, far worse. She had been mean and disrespectful to me for years. My comment wouldn't stop her from getting pregnant. Her rumors, however, did stop family from coming to my wedding. The people who mattered understood. They were still on my side. I was okay with them deciding not to talk about it anymore. All I wanted was a joyful, healthy pregnancy. I just hoped this tension would end quickly, before I had to say things they really wouldn't like. For 2 weeks after that phone call, my parents continued their victim act, pleading with everyone to shun me. They even tried to turn my supportive family against me. It didn't work. So, they escalated to social media. They didn't name me directly, but they started talking about a particular relative who always tries to ruin lives and has always been jealous of Pam. This relative, they claimed, mocked Pam's infertility and destroyed Pam's marriage. They were repeating the same lies Pam had spread before my wedding. That's when I knew I had to respond. I contacted my former brother-in-law. We didn't communicate frequently, but we were civil. I told him everything, and asked if he'd mind if I publicly shared the truth. He gave me his blessing. So I did it. I wrote about Pam's actions, the true cause of their divorce, every manipulative detail. The drama exploded. My phone blew up with calls, texts, emails from family members, demanding to know if it was true, asking me to remove the post, even accusing me of lying. I didn't respond to any of them. My parents and Pam, however, remained remarkably silent. They had nothing to defend themselves with. I finally felt I had exposed Pam for who she truly was. It was disheartening that no one apologized to me, but I honestly expected it. This was my main objective, to lay bare the truth. A few days later, Pam and my parents finally contacted me. They were ready to apologize, they said, but only if I removed my post. Meanwhile, other family members who had previously been quick to condemn me had apparently contacted Pam and my parents, criticizing their actions. They told my parents it was unfair to portray me negatively when Pam was ultimately to blame for her divorce. My parents' years of deception had severely damaged their relationships. It was incredible how quickly some family members flipped from detesting me to betraying Pam. But as I said, I don't hold much regard for those who are so easily swayed. They still refused to truly apologize, and most of them just stopped contacting me. No one was asking me to remove the post anymore. I replied to Pam and my parents, telling them I would remove the post when I felt like it. I didn't care about their conditional apologies. I blocked them. They haven't tried to contact me since. This morning, I decided to remove the post. Not for them, but because I don't want my social media filled with posts about unimportant people. Retaliation isn't beneficial, and I want a pleasant, healthy pregnancy. Besides, I believe that was sufficient punishment for Pam and my parents. I have family and friends who truly care about me. My husband and I are content. That's all I really need. It doesn't matter what my sister and parents are doing anymore. I hope they understand, after everything, that I want nothing to do with them ever again. That's all I have to say, and I doubt they'll get in touch anytime soon. It's been a long, painful journey, but I've found my peace and my true family. The clarity I gained from all this was invaluable, even if it came at a high cost. I'm so grateful to everyone who supported me through this. So, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Was I wrong to speak my truth, or was it the only way to finally break free? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I truly want to know.